told you that this would backfire.
I just wonder for anybody who heard that, like what they thought of that.
I was deeply offended. I was deeply offended. And it felt like a moment where it's like, you N-words better get in line and do what we say. And it felt like him as the czar of the Democratic Party coming down to say, go get these N-words in line. And the general tone of it was disgusting. It was abhorrent. I don't respect it. I didn't like nothing about it.
It isn't just Obama. It's also Kamala, and that's the reason why this is happening?
No, black voters constitute such a big part of the Democrat base. You take that out and the whole thing sort of falls over. And this is a result of some very simple question that President Trump has asked black voters since 2016. What the hell do you have to lose? And they've responded to that question thinking, well, we keep voting Democrat and things just don't seem to get better. And so his support has gone from 8% in 2016 up to 12% of the black vote in 2020. And now, according to polls, he's somewhere at 20, maybe 23, 24% of the black vote. And if that sticks into Election Day, the Democrats are going to be in very big trouble. That's a very large chunk of their constituency to walk out on them. And the whole thing's going to come crashing down if those numbers hold.
The thing that is, Trump talks about this a lot. He says, Kamala Harris became black when it was convenient.
Right. Yeah.
Can you talk to me about, do you agree with him on that? Do you feel like she's wearing her blackness?
Absolutely. when she sworn into the Senate, it was as the first Indian American.
Thank you.
Which is, it's fine. We don't care.
Yeah. We all know she's not black. Let's understand that. We are all clear of that. But my point of view, and like I told you earlier, she's already been there. She's in office right now.
That right there is just one bit. And of course, there's also this poll that was released by Suffolk University via USA Today, showing that 49% of Hispanics are leaning towards Trump, while also at the exact same time showing you that Kamala Harris is only getting about 38% of Hispanics. So that makes me wonder, is the Victimhood Coalition, not the Victimhood Coalition, the overall minority coalition, of course, of those who the Democratic Party love to try to wound up, because, of course, the Democratic Party is all about identity politics. Is this, in fact, falling apart? That woman right there from MSNBC, that woman right there at the very end kind of sums it all up. Now, guys, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the polls in this video, but I'm also going to be talking about this, let's just say, this halfway attempt by Obama to try to save the Democratic Party. Now, I say halfway attempt by Barack Obama because when the man was in office, it was reported by several different outlets, of course, most famously Ed Klein's book, The Amateur, who, by the way, also got a lot of his information from fellow Democrats, not Republicans, that Barack Obama was actually, how do I say this, he was very lazy. Now, people have said that Obama is on the campaign trail campaigning for Kamala Harris to try to save his own legacy. I do agree with a lot of that, but in reality, Obama's legacy, for the most part, is really just division. That's really all it was just good old-fashioned division. I mean, I came across this little clip right here from X the other day, or was on X the other day, and I just couldn't help but laugh at this.
I don't understand how we got so toxic and just so divided and so bitter, and I get why sometimes people just don't want to pay attention to it. And we all have friends like that. We have family members who just like, it's all a circus out there.
I think you need to look inward there, Barry. I think that's actually what needs to happen. You need to look inward. Now, guys, I'll be looking at two separate bits, one from MSNBC and another one from Fox News. Now, granted, I chose to ignore CNN altogether because, obviously, well, CNN, they'll be coming up a little bit later on in the week. I have to make some adjustments to the content, but of course, there's going to be more content out this week and, of course, next week because of all the time that was missed due to certain circumstances. So, obviously, I got to post a little bit more to kind of get the algorithm back in my favor. But still, though, make sure you guys still please hit the like button. If you guys are new here, please consider subscribing. It's free. All you got to do is just hit the subscribe button right there in front of you. Please hit the like button. It's right there in front of you. It doesn't cost you anything. And also, please cut the notifications on for the channel so that way you guys are notified when my videos come out. The schedule for me probably won't change until sometime after the election, but I want to go ahead and get through this and go ahead and just kind of like push as hard as possible. It's part of the reason why it is I went ahead and voted. And of course, I've got a couple of appointments coming up. So yeah, I'm going to be kind of throwing out some extra content, but let's go ahead and get to this. So right now at this moment in time, it is expected that Donald Trump will get anywhere between 16 to maybe 25% of black voters. Now, me personally, I'm going to play it safe and say these probably will get right around 18%. But of course, you start to realize that things are turning once you get into the voting booth, or once you get in line and you find out that there are, in fact, people voting for him, people of color, people who are black, of course, who normally voted Democrat, who are now voting for Donald Trump. You can tell sometimes by the clothing. For example, a great bit of clothing that will be worn by somebody who may, of course, be like myself, may be something like stand for the flag, kneel for the cross. When you start seeing stuff like that and a lot more red, you're probably thinking to yourself that, hey, this right here is a strong possibility that this person may have actually woken up and realized the Democratic Party was not in their best interest. And also, to go on top of that, when you go to a Trump rally and you see, of course, people wearing Trump shoes, stuff like that there, then you might just think to yourself, wow, this man's base is in fact expanding, getting a lot more diverse. Now, there is one more thing I do want to say before we get into this video, and that is that the video on Kamala Harris's disastrous interview with NBC, that one video will be coming out probably right around 5 or 6 o'clock. There's a video coming out at 11 that I did on Cenk Uyghur's very, very bad analysis of Kamala Harris's strategy. That video right there will be in the end cards and probably in the description box. But with now out of the way, and now let's go ahead and hop into this topic. So, MSNBC sends out one of their normals. They send out one of their normal people to go out and talk to minority voters and try to browbeat them into voting for Kamala Harris. And this right here is what she ultimately ran into.
Idea of mass deportation, largely. You have criminals in this country who are destroying our nation. They're coming in here, getting earmarked bills and policies to open up businesses, get free housing, get access, easier access than those who are legally immigrated to this country to welfare and other benefits. So, like, as a taxpayer, we have to pay for these guys to have luxuries of life, and we don't get anything, especially black Americans who've suffered so much in the system under Democrats. We don't get anything. That's insane. You talked about Springfield, Ohio, and the whole thing with the fluff talk of, oh, grabbing the soundbite about Haitians or whatever is eating cats and dogs. Y'all trying to change the narrative of what he's really talking about. Change the narrative of really what we're talking about. And telling us that's what we should be discussing. No, this here, this is what we're discussing. This here, this is America. And this is what America is about and what we're discussing.
That right there was a young black male. Now, I'm not going to go through everything that he says because the true reaction in this video is going to come over the course of the next 2 bits, which of course are from MSDNC and of course from Fox News. Now, here's the thing about that young man right there. Obviously, I'm calling him a young man for a reason. Young people. This is probably the first election that I have seen where the Democratic Party did not have a hold on the young people. Now, granted, those aged 18 to 29, Kamala Harris will probably still get about 60% of that vote. But normally what happens in elections is that Democrats will poll at about 65 to 70%, Republicans will poll about 24%, and of course about 6 or 7% of that vote just does not show up. So therefore the Democrat ends up with a total somewhere between 68 and 73, and the Republican gets somewhere right between 22 and 25. This time around, it looks like it's about 63% for Harris, 36% for Trump. However, like I said, about 6 or 7% is probably not going to vote. It's going to be a much smaller piece of the pie. I said piece of the pie, but piece of the pie. My bad. I apologize. Having some issues with my voice this morning. So therefore, Trump's numbers will probably be much closer to 40, especially as the election gets closer and closer and closer, and people start to realize that their candidate is probably losing. Obviously, Republicans did not get the memo because Republicans are actually up on the early vote this time around. I'm going to link this video right here in the description box, especially in states like Nevada and North Carolina. And, of course, the mail-in requests in Pennsylvania look absolutely horrible for the Democrats this moment in time. Like I said, that video, Greg Foreman talks about that, Black Conservative Perspective. There's also a lot of other channels out there who cover this very much more extensively. Real American Politics, for example. I may leave his live stream from yesterday. If you want to listen to that, I advise you guys go check him out. But he talks about the early vote numbers as well. It's not looking good for Democrats. Democrats, by the way, normally dominate the early vote, not Republicans. And, of course, when you actually look at the voters themselves, come to find out you can come away with the assessment that it's not low propensity voters, which is, by the way, what you need to have vote on Election Day or have vote going into Election Day. It's actually the higher propensity voters that Democrats are, how do I say, cannibalizing. Now, there is a strong possibility that Republicans, and I don't think it would matter, but at least not in the sense where it would hurt Republicans, it would actually hurt Democrats a lot more. There is a possibility that a lot of independents that vote Democrat and a lot of Democrats that have switched party and gone to the Republican Party and brand new voters that Scott Pressler is largely responsible for registering, it is possible that they're simply carrying their voting habits with them and going ahead and voting early. I'm one of those type of voters that, of course, just goes and votes early because I want to go ahead and get it out of the way because God knows what the hell could happen on election day. By the way, it's better to vote before election day because of what I just said. God knows what the hell will happen on election day because we all know that election day is the day they normally pull their BS. But something else, too, that's also not helping Kamala Harris's case out is that she decided to take a day off. You took a day off with 14 days to go. Not a good idea. Maybe if you took the day off with 23 or 24 days off, then that would look a little bit more respectable. But seeing how it is that Obama's about to get much, much more involved, like I said earlier, yeah. It looks to me like things are getting desperate over there. And, of course, we'll talk a little bit more about that in videos that come out this week. But still, the point is they're struggling mightily with minority voters. Guys, I did start this video talking about this poll with Hispanic voters. And you're probably wondering, what am I going to talk about Hispanic voters? Well, all I'm going to say about the topic of Hispanic voters is this here. If it's 49%, that's New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, probably Colorado that flipped, not just Texas, Florida, and also to go on top of that, that also bodes well for Republicans on congressional races and state and local races, which at the end of the day, you're going to need because guess what? You're going to need to be able to effectively govern if you're president. So, yeah. But also something else, too. I think the real number is probably right around 43, somewhere between 42 and 44%. That would still actually swing all those states, which, of course, you can play with the models on NBC Swing the Vote. But that's all I'm going to say for the time being. I think I've done a lot of videos in the past on Hispanic voters and why it is that they would, in fact, surprise you this election cycle. But let's get back to MSDNC.
Feelings, and let me start with the women here about Kamala Harris.
She's a woman of color. I'm not putting her down because of that, and I'm not putting her down because she's a woman. I'm not a feminist, so I'm sorry. But at the end of the day, I don't think that she has the personality. I don't think that she has what it takes to go up against Putin and go up against these other presidents that are built for this. I don't want to be scared because my president is scared. I want my president to feel secure and manly and about it.
We brought up gender, right? Like, do you think it matters that she's a woman and people aren't comfortable having a woman in a top leadership role?
Gender question at the very end, that will be coming up in a video later on this week. Probably one of the videos that come out tomorrow because obviously CNN, they had to bring on Stacey Abrams' fat ass to tell us all that, people are just being misogynistic. And of course, they even got some people, mostly the feminine one types, in Michigan saying the exact same thing. This right here, by the way, is also a sign that these people really and truly are, in fact, losing. Because they're already looking for all the narratives that they can create post-election, but let's continue.
I don't think that because most men, they love their mothers. They love their wives. So as a woman, most men, they respect the woman. But she just don't have the qualification or the education to really run America because she don't have the experience. She don't understand our struggles. And for me to believe you for another 4 years, you're crazy.
Right.
Like, you're crazy. You're saying the same thing that you said 4 years ago.
So the fact that she's the vice president
That's
to
just
you
the
is
bottom line.
You're like, you've been here, you've had a chance.
Yes. Well, for me, the very first time I ever heard the name Kamala Harris, it was in association to locking up parents for truancy. That was the first time I ever heard of her name. And I really didn't understand how this person claims to be a black woman, but yet she's locking up black women and black men and separating families.
This is a thing that is
foremost the obvious. She's currently in office right now. And then number two, also the race factor, which, by the way, will in fact be coming up a little bit later on this week as we talk more and more about the narratives. But there is one thing that I do want to talk about, and of course it is the truancy question. When Kamala Harris was the district attorney of San Francisco, she decided to start locking up parents. No, it was the Attorney General of California. She decided to have parents locked up for their kids being truant. Now, let me explain to you why this is such a touchy topic with voters, especially black voters, especially black women. First and foremost, you can't always, and I know I say this several occasions, especially when it comes to topics like gaming and whatnot, you need to be a better parent. You should have been a better parent. If you'd have been a better parent, this type of thing right here would have been avoided if you had taught your child balance. Okay, that's not the topic here. The caveat of this right here is that obviously you can't control everything your child does. You've got to go to work, especially if you're a single mother or if you're a single parent, period. Or if you're a married couple, which, by the way, growing up, obviously, I grew up in a household where my parents were married. My mother and father, before they decided to divorce when I was a teenager, both parents worked. Okay, I'm not going to tell you what my parents' jobs were, but still, one parent normally carries a child to school. And, of course, if the child gets out the car, goes inside the school, and then all of a sudden escapes after they see you drive off, then you really can't help that. You really and truly can't. So why in the world did this woman think it was a good idea to lock up kids? Well, clearly Kamala Harris has never raised any children. She got married to Doug Emhoff very late. She never had any children of her own, which is kind of odd because she's kind of been the, I don't think I need to say any more about that. Don't worry, that'll probably be coming up in the next video because people did allude to that. But the point is this right here. Locking up parents for truancy is just a little bit too far. By the way, there were also a lot of black people in 2020 who thought that these people had lost their minds, would defund the police because black people in some of these neighborhoods were actually requesting more police. I'm just simply saying that people are obviously beginning to act on what it is that they've been officially been suspecting, which also came out in the David Shore post-mortem 2020 or the post-2020 election post-mortem report, which, by the way, that's Obama's guy, where he said that people were starting to vote a lot more based upon how they feel as far as socially. By the way, most black men, most black people as a whole are a bit more socially conservative than liberal. It's the economic policies that typically tend to keep Democrats on the plantation a little bit longer, that Democrat plantation that they're being held to. As you guys can obviously see, a brand new generation of people are starting to realize that we've been voting the wrong way for years. But that right there brings us to the Fox report. That there brings us to Fox News. Of course, I chose to go with the Lawrence Jones Leo Terrell segment, so let's watch this.
Polls show Vice President Kamala Harris losing ground with crucial blocks in her party. They have always counted on the Latino voters, but they're now voting for Donald Trump by double digits. The same poll showing her support among black voters hitting a record low with just 72% of them backing her. To put it in perspective, that's down 92%. That's down from 92% from black voters' support of the Democratic candidate back in 2016. Fox News contributor and former Democrat Leo Terrell joins us now. So I found this poll just fascinating, Leo. When you look at the support for Hillary Clinton, it was 92% of black support. When you look for Joe Biden, it was 90%. You got Kamala Harris at 78%. The question is why?
Now, before I go any further, I want you guys to know this. Leo Terrell is one of the first ones on television, at least at Fox News, who woke up. Leo is a civil rights attorney. He's been in Chicago, L.A., a lot of bigger cities. And the caveat, or the thing that ultimately got him to ultimately drop the Democratic Party, was the fact that Joe Biden was going to be selecting, looked like Kamala Harris as his VP. I don't think I need to go through Kamala Harris's VP as a district attorney of California, or, DA of San Francisco, or Attorney General of California. I don't think I need to go through that because I think pretty much everybody knows exactly how tyrannical she was. Of course, I'll never forget the segment where Cornell West and him went at it on Sean Hannity.
Black man, there's looting going on, and you try to conflate. No, it's my turn. It's my turn. You try to conflate protesting and police misconduct. And shame on you. And you're absolutely wrong. You won't address the issue. You will refuse to address the issue because I'm talking to you. You're not my brother. You're not my brother. You are hurting black people by acting this position. You are taking the wrong position. No, my brother. That stuff plays out. That plays out. Address the question. Do you? Oh my gosh! You have lost control. You're a dinosaur. You're an outright dinosaur. You have lost it, sir. I'm not part of your group. I'm not part of your group. You have lost it. You are a dinosaur. And you know what? He's trying to You are wrong. You are wrong, my friend. No, I don't think so. Because your position is so way off. I will not respect
you come out of the block.
I'll link the video in the description box for you guys to see the full bit. But of course, yeah, if anybody has an idea of exactly what this Democratic Party machine does, then obviously it's Leo Terrell. So let's continue.
Race card that Trump is racist is dead. It no longer works. And if he is a racist, why are Hispanics and blacks drifting towards him? Because of situations like the barbershop yesterday, where you were with him at the barbershop, and blacks and Hispanics resonate with him, and he resonates with them. And I'll sit here and tell you, I left the Democrats in 2020, voted for Trump, and I voted for him already. That is what's happening, a shift. Economically, it's in blacks and Latinos' interest to vote for Donald J. Trump.
Not only that, but there's this strange phenomenon of Democrat senators going ahead and hedging their bets, or are they, by suddenly trying to attach themselves to Trump? Or are they?
Bucked Biden to protect fracking, and he sided with Trump to end NAFTA and put tariffs on China to stop them from cheating.
Tammy Baldwin got President Trump to sign her Made in America bill. And then she got President Biden to make it permanent.
That's why I wrote a law signed by President Trump forcing drug companies to show their actual prices.
This is wild to me. I don't see Republicans trying to link themselves to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden.
Lawrence, I thought Donald Trump was a threat to democracy. I thought he was a danger to this country. What you just, and Bob Casey voted to impeach him twice. What you saw here was an admission from Democrats that Trump policies work for America, and they're running away from Kamala Harris. They're running away from Joe Biden. They're running away from the Democrat policy. This is an outright admission that Donald Trump has a policy that will make all Americans great, regardless of skin color.
What Leo said right there, I do in fact agree with. However, I also think it's very possible that these people are trying to run independent of Harris because they believe that Harris's numbers are, let's just say, a lot lower. Now, you could see the ads change here soon, but Tammy Baldwin, Alyssa Slotkin, and Bob Casey are probably telling the Obama team, who's out there currently campaigning, that, she's not going to get elected. Just because Josh Shapiro got elected in the state of Pennsylvania as the governor, that does not mean that, how do I say this? That does not mean that there aren't what you call Shapiro Trump voters. Same thing with the state of Wisconsin. It does not mean that there are not Baldwin Trump voters. That does not mean that there are not Slotkin Trump voters. The fact of the matter is that people on the ground are waking up and they're moving much, much further to the former president than they are the current vice president. And these senators are obviously letting them know this. They have sit-downs, they have discussions with voters all the time, focus groups, and they can obviously tell how the wind goes, and they know who the hell is going to vote for them and who the hell is not. The fact of the matter is they're losing this election. They're definitely losing minorities. But the question then remains, is the minority coalition falling apart? Well, it starts with a little bit. It started with black voters in 2016 when 8% went to Trump, then 11% went to him in 2016. So if the trend continues and the turnouts where a lot of people think it's going to be, it's probably going to be somewhere between 16 to 8%, which makes you think in 2028, would it increase to over 25%? Would it increase to over 35%, maybe 40% before the end of 2032? Well, I guess we just have to wait and see, but it definitely looks that way. But you guys tell me what you think in the comments section. Make sure you guys please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, cut the notifications on, sound off in the comments. You guys can also follow me on my Facebook page right here. So make sure you guys also hit the like button on the post when I do post those videos there too. And you can also follow me on Twitter as well, X. So make sure you guys do that. I'll try to link everything in the description box for you guys. And I'll have video number 3 out a little bit later on today, and I'll see you guys later.